Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Thank you, BITOK. I think that's the name, BITOK.
Yeah, sure.
Trial Media.
Yeah, good to see you.
Thank you for having me. My name is actually John Ondieki. I don't know how that came there, but I think my daughter used this phone to enter into one of our classes. So
The
she
same
put
thing
the
with
name
Sang.
Amelia there. So I'm going to change the
Nyinyi
name.
mulienda mkaiba tablet za watoto.
Mimi ni Baba Amelia.
Baba Amelia. All right, karibu bana.
Yeah, yes. I don't know how much time I'm going to allocate to because I talk and talk and talk.
Allow me to give you I'll give you 3 minutes.
Oh, that's too short.
That's too all right. Let me give you 5 then. Let me 5 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm speaking from Kisi right now, but I have lived in the U.S., in Washington D.C. and Minnesota. So I really and I still will be going back to the U.S. I think sometime next year. Now, in terms of the diaspora, I just want to put quickly some observation I've seen from personal experience and what I've had people say. You know, very few diasporans have that passion of seeing the country change. We have that, we are just resentful. But like those who have spoken here, there are just a few of those who have passion. And there's something we call a relationship between passion, knowledge, and exposure. When people get out there, let's talk about people in the US. There's a lot of exposure, systems are working, and you get to know more. They say kutembea kwingi ndio kuona mengi. They used to say kuishi kwingi ndio kuona mengi, but kutembea kwingi actually you see more. Now, with that kind of knowledge and exposure, the passion for your country, the passion for change goes down. That's why you find very few people actually even offer themselves to run for office back in Kenya. And when they lose, they go forever because they feel like this resentful. I came to do something good for my country, and they rejected me. Now, let me talk about the root cause of this rejection or this kind of gap we have. There is a general perception that, you know, living outside Kenya is better than living in Kenya. Even people in Kenya actually strive to go out of the country, to go in the US or Europe or whatever. Now, those who are there, I've just observed over time, there is a sense of hatred that has developed between those who live in diaspora and actually Kenyans. And I don't know, you know, we may need some people to do research on why this happens and how we should change this. But, you know, sometimes even social media, even so Facebook is actually even making this even worse because maybe you post a picture and you're somewhere and people say, oh, you are showing off. Some people back in Kenya say, think you're showing off. So when you come back, maybe there's some things you're used to, accustomed to. When you try to call them out, it's normal here in Kenya. For example, I was driving somewhere in Nairobi, and actually I found a motorbike riding towards me, like opposite direction. I'm like, what's going on here? You know, but in Kenya, actually people used to this.
Yes.
So some of these things have to change. But the kind of gap we have developed between the people who have gone outside, you know, and those in the country is something which you need to work on and make this change. Like my friend who has just left has spoken about having got somebody who was willing to donate books, but the reception here was that you have to part with some money for them to take them. Anyway, let me I've made points to talk about. Let me go back to what I've heard about the Free Kenya movement. Actually, I want to say that is a very good thing. Mr. Njagi elucidated a lot of points which I think I share with, especially the point of representation. Number one, we cannot be represented. People in diaspora cannot be represented unless they're also allowed to vote. I think one of the stages of implementation of 2010 Constitution was tasked IEBC to register voters abroad. But I think it's only within East Africa. So we haven't had voters registered in the US, Europe, Asia, Middle East, and so on. That has not happened. So it's something we need to push for. So if we push and get the people registered, then we can go for that representation. Because last year alone, diaspora remitted almost 300 billion Kenya shillings. Now, 300 billion, you know, look at this in terms of what you saw even governors, you know, cry for. They wanted 316 billion. You see, even government was unable even to raise 316 billion for the county governments. So in essence, the diaspora remittances.
You guys can fund our budget.
Kenya. Yeah, in the country without actually even you know, asking for any money from the exchequer. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Yeah. So that is actually what it means. So if Kenyans abroad are sending such money to Kenya, why can they not be represented in the House, both in Parliament, in the I think that's a good proposal, and the diaspora should warm towards that kind of proposal. Now, about now the current situation of BBI, the BBI we have, no doubt it has very good proposals inside. But I can tell you, I've read BBI, and I've yet to read the bill, which actually I saw on news yesterday, and I think so many things have changed. I'm going to look at it. But two things which make me feel like this BBI is acting to getting a cake made of poop, but actually the pudding is actually made of the ice cake. You know,
some sweet icing.
There is actually sweet, but the more you dig inside, you actually eat poop inside. So that's the way I look at it. Or you can look at it as like planting corn or maize together with the seedlings of blue gum or trees. So you will harvest 2-3 times, or 3 seasons or 4 seasons. But next time you have a canopy, and you cannot actually now plant anything under the trees. Why am I saying this? This BBI is being, it's being pushed by 2 people. President Uhuru Kenyatta, who has his interest, which I think I understand his interest, and Raila, who has also his interest. So they do not have interest of the people. As much as they put this kind of things like youth commission, or things like more money to the counties and devolution, but their interest is this: the president will be leaving. I do not think he's interested in becoming PM, as Njeg put it. I don't think he's interested. The thing is, he just feels like his community is going to be left out. Because let's face it, since independence, we have had 3 Kikuyu presidents. Now it feels like this time Kenyans will not be receptive of a president from the central Kenya, and they want somehow to have somebody big from that part of the country to be in government. You know, that's the kind of feeling I'm living in my people out of government. So this is not the way constitution are made. Raila Odinga is interested in becoming president, or becoming a leader at least for once. So we cannot make constitutions with people or individuals in mind. You see, that's actually the problem it has. And even the IEBC they're proposing, I really agree with William Ruto, because you cannot have in Kenya. At least last time I checked, we have about 36 registered
political parties.
Yes. 60. Now, how can you only have a few of these political parties, because we cannot have 36 commissioners. So I have like 5 commissioners from political parties. So that there's no, it is not going to be.
It doesn't make sense.
So I think introduction of these guys coming in as political appointees in the commission will actually bring more confusion, and it's actually a recipe for chaos. I think that should be actually an idea which should be kicked out. To me, the idea of the Free Kenya movement of having these political losers gain some part in the House, maybe as opposition or in the Senate, I think is a good idea, so that they don't go home. But having them as prime minister, deputy prime minister, vice president, or deputy president, the kind of bureaucracies we're creating up there will cause more confusion and more expenditure. Remember, we need this, security, clearing people on the traffic, and they love it, having like 5 fleets of vehicle, running it. That's the deputy prime minister, that's the prime minister, that's so and so and so. I think it's completely a great confusion that we're bringing in the country. So I urge Kenyans of goodwill to reject the proposal by the president and Raila Odinga. And now, let me quickly speak about the COVID issue. I'm in Kenya right now, and I can tell you today, we have like 3 cottages of people I know have died of COVID. Wow. And I've taken part in the funeral programs of them. So this is serious. So people are sick and getting sick every day. In fact, the Minister of Health is underreporting what is going on. So it's a serious problem here. And now you see, the leadership grew tired. The kind of lethargy or the kind of fatigue they actually came too quick, and they just gave it, they have just stopped facing the COVID issue, and now they're doing other things. And this is why Kenyans are feeling like, oh, maybe this thing is not as serious as it should be. And it's actually taking down many people, including those who are fighting for the frontline workers. The doctors. So it's a big problem. And I urge Kenyans to continue, being careful about this. And lastly, I would like to speak about the youth bulge. This is a major problem we have here. When you look at the US, for example, the median age is about 50. When you look at Kenya, that's the census we finished, the median age is about 19 or 20. So what that means is we have more educated youth, we have more young people, but we have less jobs. So in the US, you can see the baby boomers are going out to the nursing homes, and therefore that in the healthcare only industry, there are a ton of jobs. Okay, you go to North Dakota, the mining or fracking, there's jobs there. So you cannot compare now, the situation in the US because of what we call the population pyramid is actually the inversion of Kenya. So the youth bulge in Kenya must be handled very carefully. I think if they don't handle this very carefully, it's also a recipe for a major chaos or crisis in the future and the very near future, even after 2022.
All right.
Now, in connection to that, you've seen the DPP try to resuscitate the cases of 2007, like post-election violence cases. In as much as these cases should be actually settled, we do not have the structures to settle these cases, because you can see the ICC itself failed. It did not fail because there was no evidence, but because the leaders or those who are implicated actually tried to get their way out using crook and hook and whatever means they used. Now, they were not acquitted. There is this thing called the Genocide Watch. If you have time, those participating, all the viewers, look at the Genocide Watch. There are 10 stages of a genocide. And usually, if this genocide is not settled, I don't want to go through all the stages, but the last stage actually is called denial and the triumphalism. You feel like you've triumphed. Now, the triumph, when you've triumphed in this case, you find that those who actually were the leaders in that kind of crises or in the violences or in the genocide, it happens that they're seen as heroes. And in this case, we have this kind of heroes. I don't want to name names. They're seen as good people. And because of denial, these issues are bound to repeat. So the DPP is doing the right thing, but at a wrong time and with lack of mechanisms.
All right.
So with the kind of youth bulge we have, and this kind of resuscitation of cases, if they're not handled carefully, I can assure you, and with this BBI thing, then Kenya has one more war to fight. And we need to be careful about this. So the leadership should not be oblivious of what people are going through. They need to be cognizant of that. Anyway, I don't want to talk more. Let me just end there.
We'll come back for another round. We'll be back for another round after OJWANG. We'll give OJWANG again to give us now to take us through the proposals that we had yesterday on BBI. OJWANG, I think you prepared your pointers very quickly because I think we only have 30 minutes left to end the broadcast. So please take us through the kind of amendments that were done yesterday on BBI, so that we give the diaspora guys an opportunity to comment on it as well. Then we'll come back to our friend Jaggi to give also the remarks on what he has heard from diaspora. I'll have to kurudi na pia to diaspora pia sasa watupea another round as we close.
Absolutely.
Right. Yes.
It's remarkable that we, through technology, we are able to talk to our brothers who are in diaspora, who are in different time zones, but have sacrificed their sleep. When somebody is talking to us at 2 a.m., at 5, at 11, at midnight, that is a lot of determination. So I really want to recognize that in spite of the time difference, they have sacrificed their sleep literally to be up and nocturnal and talk to us. I have a few observations. I will make the BBI a little more relevant to this discussion. So I'm not going to go for close by close. I urge the diaspora people, please don't just say, well, this is Africa, nothing work. We have a duty of always demanding for excellence and better. If you look at the role, the BBI talks of regional integration, and we were asking where does it talk of diaspora? Under international law, you know, every country have diplomatic duty to protect its citizens abroad. We have failed, or Kenya has failed, in most cases for obvious reasons. The people who are working in some of the diplomatic units are not students of international relation. They are there because of their connections. And if you are there because of your connection, then you don't transfer any skills to that position. And that is so clear, so obvious, that when countries go to war about their citizens, if a citizen of US is arrested in Kenya, the first call is the embassy. When you go to US, you'll hear once in a while they might come for a Kenyan event in Georgia. and you are asked to register with your embassy. And as a logical person, you ask, what is this thing going to help me with? So our diplomatic immunity and diplomatic protection have failed. The reason that ambassadors are given diplomatic immunity, inviolability of the embassy and all that is to protect their citizens. So we have missed that very important point. Secondly, I wanted to say that because the Constitution and the executive have not been able to strengthen diaspora voting power. When you don't vote, you cannot talk to a politician. You are simply a donor, but you cannot influence their votes. So I think that is where the diaspora's leg has been cut. They cannot vote. There was an attempt for them to vote in the presidential election, and even if you vote in presidential election, the legislation is done in parliament, and you don't have representation there. You don't have representation in the Senate. You only have, maybe you might only have voice at the executive, and therefore, if you are not on the table, then you are probably what is on the menu. That is obvious, and that is why I'm glad that they are excited with the idea of representation. But that should go further. That even this initiative that our leader here has on BBI, on constitutional reform, should ring fence around their right to vote, including voting in all layers of election. Then it will be a real equality with all. The people in diaspora usually talk about, do we want a big government or a small government? A big government is a government that gather a lot of money, that have a lot of bureaucracy, that have a lot of officers, that have a lot of the people we are describing and the spending we are describing. If you go to US, that is a real issue, even between the Republican and the Democrat, because the issue of big government is big bureaucracy, is more layers, and it is less responsibility. So if you have a team of 10 commissioners, do they work better than if you have one person there who is responsible? It just become a way of expanding and blotting the executive. So one issue, and you'll find a lot of clauses within the BBI proposal that you can argue is blotting the government. And it is moving us from a lean government, and we were not even lean, or punguza mzigo already came because people felt there's some mzigo to be punguzad, but now we are even getting more bloated. So that as an organizing philosophy or theme is problematic. Secondly, I'm looking at some of the innovation of BBI on citizens' responsibilities, and these are put before rights. You see, right trumps. Right trumps. When I say I have a right to this, it means the state have a responsibility to this. But now BBI is whittling down the element of our rights by coming with a raft of responsibilities, so that the government could simply say, but you have also not fulfilled your responsibility as a citizen. We get rights because we are human. They are inherent, not because we have done anything. But you can see that they have added the responsibility of citizen almost as a requirement or a precondition before you exercise your right. Right simply means, state, leave me alone. I have a right to speak the way I want to speak. But now it will be construed in terms of, but you also have responsibility to this. So it actually messes our gain on rights. I also want to look at some of the issue. For example, the youth that we have spoken about. The youths and what they have been given, the commission and all that. You cannot say you have a right if you cannot pinpoint to me the person who is responsible to fulfill that right. I have a right to job can only be complete if you say I have a right to job and so have a right to give me a job. Otherwise, it's just a wish. I really wish I got a job. That's what you're saying, and misusing the language of right. Because right have correlation of responsibility. Who is responsible? Who owes you this right? So far, that right has not been ring-fenced well. And in fact, some youth have said, now you want to to give me a break before I pay, because you are envisioning that you are not going to do anything about my unemployment situation. So you are actually working towards my unemployment so that it's a comfortable situation, rather than working towards how do I get employed. I also think that when I looked at it, and you know, is it coincident that most of the BBI launch have been coinciding with the birthdays of the president? So that when we were in Bomas, you are within here, the next minute, happy birthday to you. And you wonder, is this a birthday party? Is it a coincidence that the Bomas launch, and even the previous one, isn't it, was coinciding with how selfish can somebody get, surely? If I take whatever, okay, I'm saying this country is important to me, I'm pulling things together, I want us to move forward, this country will ever remain, and then I look at the calendar from when my birthday is, and so we have 300 people singing happy birthday. Can you have a constitutional conversation with people who are singing happy birthday for you? Is that an environment potent for real disagreement and real hard talk when these are birthday guests? And that is what they were. Remember, throughout as a sign of love. And that is why, BITOK, I usually go to the shamba la wanyama. And I cited it here before, the animal farm, which says that it became common in the animal farm that animals will associate Napoleon with even good fortune. So you will find two chickens talking, and one chicken will say, thanks to the leadership of Napoleon, this week I have laid 6 eggs because of the leadership of Comrade Napoleon. And you wonder, what is that to do with you laying eggs? You'll find cows drinking water. And then I like what Junet said, that we are cows. You'll find cows drinking water in the shamba la wanyama, the animal farm, and they will say, thanks to Comrade Napoleon, this water is cool. And you wonder, what is that to do with the water? So when this thing, I mean, finally, before I get carried away, and before I misbehave, Father, I will wish that within this BBI, it is not moribund, where it is yes or no. Because this is about how many amendments? There are about how many constitutional amendments? About 20 or something. I might like one, but I don't like the other. If it is sovereignty belongs to the people, and it is about the will of the people, then come with a referendum that I can say, yes, I want this, but I don't like this, or you can keep this, or take away from my plate this. Let it not be yes or no. And you know very well that the so-called promoters will fight for yes or no, so that it is poison pill laced with some sweeteners. But if they are genuine, and this will go to court, if nobody will take it to court, I think at some point we will volunteer and test this to court. Don't give us another yes or no with more than 20-something amendments. It will be, you vote for what you want, so that that youth, if they feel that that youth commission is what is important, but you don't want to touch Prime Minister even with a 10-foot pole, you will sneak in there with a pen and mark the youth commission and walk from there and mark no on the rest. Otherwise, if it is lumped up, it is like somebody coming and telling you 90 lies and 10% truth and telling you vote yes or no. So that is a real test of sovereignty of the people. How about the signatures? Can one signature, and you know how we collect signature, it is usually with, of course, I can imagine the shoebox will be booming with nobody can stop reggae. You are in that line and you are shown mark sign between the dotted lines. Are you expressing your will and willful will and intelligent will to all the 22 amendments or one section? I expect to see a signature for each and every clause of amendment. You cannot convince me that one signature can carry all these amendments. So whether IBC approved the form, IBC is not the court. IBC have its responsibility. And finally, I will also want to know whether IBC have specimen of these signatures. If you are saying you are going to approve signature, the assumption is that you have the template of what you are going to compare it with. But if you don't have the bank of signature, then what are you going to compare whether these signatures are genuine or not? You know, last time they were able to whittle out obvious things like somebody drawing an elephant, and they said, surely nobody will have a signature which is an elephant or the big 5 animals. But now, we also want IBC to assure us that they have the sample template of all the Kenyan signatures and they will verify. Otherwise, it is a sham. Thank you.
All right. Njagi, briefly, then we go back to Diaspora.
Yes.
Your reactions.
I want first again to appreciate all the persons who are contributing to the show. It's very informative, very educative.
Thank you.
And I'm really getting a lot of good feedback from Kenyans out there in the diaspora. And now I've listened to a number of issues being raised from Canada, speaker in Canada, and others in the US, and even South Africa. I'm reading online. And I want to respond to a few issues quickly. First, I want to say that as the diaspora, this is one of the strongest constituencies that has been marginalized or has not been put into consideration when it comes to the management of our affairs in Kenya. It's very unfortunate because I believe that some of our best brains, our best talents are resided out there.
Brain circulation. We
Yes.
need not brain drain, but brain circulation.
Yes.
Very good.
And therefore, what we need to do as Kenyans is actually to create a conducive environment in which the people, Kenyans in diaspora, can feel that they are welcome back home, that they are wanted, and that they are secure once they invest in the country. How best to do this than to include them in such a moment of the referendum for them to advocate for their own issues? So as I'm listening to the views, I could hear people asking, with Free Kenya, what are we proposing? One of the issues that comes out very strongly is the issue of voting and representation, right? We say there is no taxation without representation. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 allowed for dual citizens and Kenyans living out there to vote in our elections. These are not, it has not been put into place 10 years down the road. And I think this is one of the greatest disservice we are doing to Kenyans out there. Voting is a fundamental right for every Kenyan. Now, IBC was to have put in place mechanisms for voting before the 2017 elections, but this was not done. As we saw, only Kenyans in Uganda, Tanzania, and South Africa ended up voting. We have a very wide community of Kenyans out there whom I believe must exercise their right to vote. This is the referendum moment which we can actually use to emphasize, to underpin, and to insulate the issue of voting. And as Free Kenya Initiative, we plan to take this issue very seriously, to embed the issue of voting. And I think we have seen what has happened in the US, whereby we have what you call mail-in voting, where people can vote even ahead of the election by sending their votes via mail. As we speak today, Kenya has already embraced an electronic voting system. So we don't see why Kenyans out there in the diaspora cannot be registered to vote electronically and also vote electronically and for their votes to be counted. Secondly, we are talking about representation. And indeed, we have hundreds of thousands of Kenyans living out there in the diaspora. And they need to be represented, like we have Kenyans in the UAE and in the Arab world that have issues of labor in terms of, what do you call it? They're working under very bad conditions, but there is no one who can speak for themselves. Yes, we have ambassadors who are supposed to represent the interests of Kenyans out there, but it is very unlikely that their voices get to be heard and legislation done in parliament. So for the first time, Free Kenya is proposing to have representation of Kenyans from all the continents. So we were having a strategy, we were using the issue of geographical positioning, regional balancing, so that if you have, we have about seven continents, we get people from America, from Canada, we have somebody from the UAE, that is, and again, the East and Europe. But again, as our referendum is still open for views, and we would like to hear the voice of the diaspora as well on this issue of representation. How would you want members to be elected, how would you want them to be elected, from which areas and from which regions? So we are still open to suggestions from Kenyans living out there. Ours is to create a platform through which this discussion can move forward. Speaking to the issue of the views, yeah, I've seen that most of the times when it comes to elections, most of our leaders go to the diaspora only to ask for money for campaigns. I've seen them going to America, to Canada, to ask the people in diaspora. But how do we collect views? BBI had a process of collection of views. Did the diaspora give in their views? No. We have a platform through which the diaspora can engage online and present their views on the same issues that we are discussing here today. I would want to talk about the issue of sovereignty. There's somebody who asked about the sovereignty. You see, Article 1 says that all sovereign power is vested in the people, and we the people can choose to exercise that sovereign power either directly or indirectly. So what we are doing with the issue of direct representation, we are actually have come up with a structure and system of government through which the people can interact directly with the government, called the people's government. And this will be able to extend all the way to the diaspora, as we have a diaspora platform. So citizens out there, like for instance, there's the issue of can a dual citizen be appointed into an office? We had the issue of the ambassador to South Korea. There's a lady called, she's called who? She's called the lady who was appointed as an ambassador. But it brought a big issue by people saying that she cannot serve the country. We think that this is not right. Yeah, Mwende Mwinzi, yes. We feel that this is it's actually not right because she's a Kenyan. She's somebody who has a lot of experience. And these are the Kenyans we need actually out there working and serving the interest of Kenya. Now, actually on the issue of ambassadors, our proposal as Free Kenya was that we ought not to have ambassadors who are appointed from Kenya to go and serve in America when we have Kenyans in America who can be appointed to do the same jobs. These are the same Kenyans who understand the issues out there. For instance, if somebody in Canada, they understand the challenges that are going on with people in Kenyans living in Canada. So why would you appoint an ambassador from, say, somebody who vied for a governor position in Nyeri County and failed, and is appointed to go and represent the country in Canada? Of course, he will not be able to comprehend the issues as well as somebody who has lived in Canada. So this is what we are talking about. How can the citizens in the diaspora participate even in the governance of their own embassies, all right? We have the staff, the people who work in the embassies. How do the people get an opportunity to work in these embassies? So it starts from the appointment of persons working in embassies all the way to voting and to representation back in the country for the people in diaspora. In a nutshell, what we are saying is that representation has to be, the issue of representation has not been well articulated in BBI. The youths, for instance, if I talk about the youths, the women, persons with disability, they have been shortchanged completely. We're talking about giving a commission to the youths. Kenya has 70% youth population as we speak today, all right? This population, if not well looked into, is either going to be a curse to the nation by the youths participating in acts of violence, like what we see during elections. Free Kenya is proposing for the first time to have youths elected in every county. We're going to have our youth representative, a persons with disability representative, a women representative, as well as a minority representative in every county. So we are fundamentally changing the structure of representation to parliament, so that instead of having all these, say, the seasoned politicians, 290 of them going to parliament, we'll have a collegiate of different sectors of societies going into the House of Representatives, so that you increase the representation into the House of Parliament.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Let me draw it back to that. But there's someone who has come in.
Just a moment. To conclude, there's somebody who asked about Punguza Mzigo and if we're working together. Yes, we met with the leader of Punguza Mzigo last week, and we have agreed to work together towards pushing this people's referendum. So very soon we're going to be having a press conference to articulate the issues by next week.
All right.
Yes.
That's on. So now you'll have Punguza and Free Kenya.
Yeah, then we're going to have what we call the Ondoa Mzigo Initiative. Yes.
Sasa mumepunguza, sasa mtaka kuondoa kabisa.
Tunataka kuondoa mzigo. That's why we are touching on the issues of Wanjiko. We are looking at taxation. What are the areas which we can do away with some of taxation on the basic and essential commodities like unga. We should not be taxing unga, and we're talking about food security, right? Majority of Kenyans are hungry, yet you're imposing a VAT, value-added tax on maize flour, right? These are the issues that are touching the common man, which we feel will have a very significant impact on the economy.
All right.
Yeah.